Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Uh, I would like to start my presentation with the introduction. My name is Dr. Musaddiq Mansoor. I am currently working as assistant professor, computer science at FAST University, Peshawar. I'm also the program coordinator of software engineering department. Before that, I was working as deputy director IT from in UT Mardan from December 21 to June 22. Before that, I was working as lecturer in Institute of Management Sciences from 2018 to 2022. Before that, I worked as a software engineer for about 6 years in different national and international firms. Regarding my education, I have completed my PhD from FAST University Peshawar with a CGPA of 3.95 in September 2022, and I've done my MS from NUST University in 2016. So the topic of presentation which I choose is the Pareto Principle, and we'll be discussing that in the context of software project management. We'll see what is the Pareto Principle, what is the connection with the software project management, and how you can use Pareto Principle in software project management to ease your work. So what is the Pareto Principle? Pareto Principle was introduced by an Italian economist, Pareto, in 1906. What does the principle say or suggest? The principle suggests that 80% of the consequences originate from 20% of the causes. Like all you won't be able to held responsible or hold responsible all of the causes for the consequences. You can use or you can have 20% of the causes which will be causing 80% of the consequences, and the rest will contribute to only 20%. So what does this suggest? This suggests that you stop worrying about 100% of the causes and you focus only on those 20%, because if you focus on those 20%, it will be able to solve 80% of your timeline or 80% of your work. So some sample 80-20 rule, for example, 20% of your sales force produces 80% of your company revenues. 80% of delays in schedule arise from 20% of the possible causes of the delays, and 80% of customer complaints arise from 20% of your products or services. So in all these rules, if you are seeing 80% of the things are caused by the 20%. So you have to focus only on the 20% thing to achieve 80% success. So it can be implemented in different areas of the life. Like for example, 80% of world's wealth is controlled by 20% of the people. However, here in this subject, we are concerned with how this can be related to project management. So how can we ensure Pareto principle in software project management, and where it will be helpful for us? So there are different areas. There's stakeholder management, there's project timeline, resource management, team meetings, project data, and risk management. So these are some of the areas where you can apply Pareto principle and achieve better results. So it implies actually that 20% of actual work done in the project shall produce 80% of the desired results or 80% of the objectives. So we'll see one by one how Pareto principle can be applicable here. So what needs to be done as a project manager? As a project manager, you need to identify and focus on that 20% work. Stakeholder management. So basically, the first thing that we are worried about is stakeholders. There are plenty of stakeholders. Every stakeholder has its own viewpoint. If we start listening to multiple stakeholders, we'll be in a dilemma which stakeholder we should follow and which we don't follow. So what we have to do, as per Pareto principle, we have to round about 20% of the stakeholders that are most relevant. So which will ensure 80% of your project success. So 80% of your effort should focus on those 20% stakeholders only. How can we select the 20% stakeholders? Project manager can select those. They can break down the role of stakeholders and check which stakeholders are important, assess their importance in terms of required support. Secondly, project timeline management. So among overall project tasks, round about 20% of the tasks that produce 80% of result. If you start focusing on 100% of tasks, you won't be able to achieve or complete all of them. So what you have to do, you have to round up, or you have to check all the 20% that are relevant, which can contribute to 80% of the work, and start focusing on those. So you identify the critical task, avoid wasting time on less important tasks. You have to ensure that maximum resources and good resources are deployed on the critical task. You have to ensure that the time deadlines are met for these tasks, and you have to use different project management tools. Resource management, the most important resource is the human resource. Having too many people working in a task is never good. So what you have to do, you have to locate what are your 20% most important resource who you can rely on. So you have to identify them, you can focus them, you have to manage them, you have to value them, you have to appreciate them, and you have to reward them. Why we are doing this? Because we have to keep them motivated, because they will be doing 80% of our work, and the rest of staff or rest of resources will be contributing to 20%. Risk management, risk, problem, issues, conflicts, and ambiguities are part of the project. So it is not possible to consider all the 100% risk. So what we have to do, we have to ensure that 20% of the key risk or key issues are cause 80% of the problem. So as a project manager, your responsibility will be to identify those issues. You have to identify their source, you have to prioritize them, and you have to plan for them. Productivity period, there is a certain period of working day where productivity is maximum. Like you have to ensure in which period the software engineers or other staff can give their best. So you have to find out actual development work is at its peak, rest of the day meetings, lunch breaks, prayers, offsite. So as a project manager, what will be your job? Your job will be to identify the peak time and ensure maximum productivity in that peak time. So, in conclusion, by accounting for the 80-20 rule in all areas of project management, project can be organized, planned, streamlined, and completed most efficiently within budget and time. So, the focus of the project manager should be identifying the 20% of the stakeholders, critical tasks, resources, and productivity period. So, you need to focus on these things. Thank you.